Good evening, folders. How are you all doing?
What's up, you mother folders?
Mother folders.
I'm fed up with this mother folding plane. The snakes on his mother folding planes.
Don't get no plane, mother folder.
I used that phrase once at work, and that's like the weirdest look. And I was like, I'm not saying that again.
Oh, I've been using it all week.
I forget to do things like that until I get back here. Les, well reminded, sir. I actually ran out today, and I'd come up in the loft, and there was like a box sat on my desk. So I was like, "Ooh, don't worry, we're not at panic stations yet. I'm 12 left before panic stations set in." So,
well, did you see the image that Les posted, which was just like the wall to floor or ceiling to floor?
I wonder if I can get that in a tile effect and put it in my bathroom.
Yeah,
you can get custom wallpaper.
It was I saw talking of tiles, completely off topic. I can't remember who posted it now, but it was a tile you can get in your bathroom, and it's essentially turns your wall of your bathroom into a block of flats, and it's all got its own little veranda and balcony of an old woman just looking out the window at you whilst you're showering. You're like a giant with loads of borrowers. It's a peculiar tile set. But when it panned out, the whole bathroom suite was tiled with each tile's got this print of like the front of a block of flats, and there's like an old girl just sort of like looking out the window or watering, hanging baskets. Very bizarre.
As you do.
Why you'd want that.
I was going to suggest you just literally stack a load of boxes behind you. It's not even an effect. It's just literally you just get yourself sponsored and just like, this is my background now.
New York coffee.
This is my background.
They're even based there. Can't even say that. Oh, Poland. Oh no, importer, Edinburgh. Yeah.
How many different countries has this been that's not America for New York coffee?
Completely non-American. It's a lot like Corona, isn't it?
It's made in Kenya. It's shipped to Poland. It's distributed in Edinburgh and bought in the UK. In England.
Contents of the sachet into a mug. Pour hot but not boiling water and stir well. That's where
hi Kenny, hi Kieran, hi Les, Nick, Harry, Matthew, John, Kenny, James McNeary, and the missus. Dan, good evening. Welcome.
And Mrs. McNeary. How
good evening,
Adams. Good evening,
everyone.
Good evening.
Kenny says you can get a special washing powder to display in the window too.
Ooh. Where?
Well,
I'm not going to. I'm not redecorating my bathroom. It's just something I saw on Facebook.
Just to be
I went down a
sponsored
wormhole, stumbled across these weird tiles, and I was like, that's very odd. Yeah.
So tonight we're going to be talking about Opfor, BlueFor, CivPop, Rebels, DEA, and all the kind of lovely stuff that goes in between. All about the different loadouts, bits and pieces of kit that you might consider taking, riffs, rules and bits and pieces like that. So we're going to be sort of trying to give a sweeping generalized view on all the different kind of potential characters I guess you could play at an event. We're obviously looking at our forward calendar over the next year for 2023. There's a few events that we've already managed to book into. There's others that we can't. Andy unfortunately is going to be a little bit out of action for a while due to sustained injury. So
a dozy mare driving into my rear of my van. Thanks, love.
Good.
But I managed
a NoFo sticker.
That was going to be my first news article.
Yeah, the NoFo sticker's gone. But I managed to fuck her shitty Chesler up, so fuck you, bitch.
Yeah, fuck the bitches.
Oh dear. You should have got out of the car and you'd be like, right, we're going to sort this out.
3, 2, 1, fight.
She refused to get out of the car until the police. I had to literally call the police because she refused to get out of the car and talk to me. So I was
you are quite scary looking, and I can imagine when you're that
Especially
annoyed, you're probably fairly imposing. Yeah, why were you stripping off? That was even worse. Right, I'm gonna get you.
Ready for a ruck, wasn't he? Just greasing up.
I was all wrapped up and cold. I got out of the van. I was shivering. I was like, "Oh, what you done?"
Just smearing Vaseline up the arms, just like...
I did apologise to her after I'd calmed down.
It wasn't your fault.
No, for calling her a dozy cow and a few other choice words in front of the police officer. So I did apologise to everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah. What fun couple of days.
Well,
oh well.
Fortunately, you are relatively okay. So That's good.
Mentally, I'm still messed up, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
be
you
improvement,
can't really improve that, can you? So
No, and as Lance put it, my business hand is a bit messed up, but
yeah, that's unfortunate.
yeah.
Mm.
Andy does a lot of business with his hands. It's not in a rude way.
No, it is definitely not.
No, I know it was. I was trying to reduce the smuttiness of our podcast.
No,
Hi, Adventures of Zulu, John, Les is Lance Chicky fan. Oh, that was the image. James C. Thanks, YouTube, for not giving me a notification. Missed the last 3 podcasts. Yes, on that.
Yes, we've been getting
there is
that.
Apparently an issue. I'll let Andy talk about it because he knows more about it.
I don't. I just
Andy,
know that people aren't getting notifications, and I keep telling people. But apparently, the way to get around it is to
watch Facebook.
I don't know. I don't want to say it because it sounds really horrible. But unsubscribe.
Sit here
to
in
us.
person.
Yeah. Unsubscribe to us. Resubscribe and then put the bell back on, and it should sort it out.
Touch the bell end, and then you'll be good.
Yeah,
to go.
touch the bell. But you've got to unsubscribe first, apparently. But please come back. We're not that bad.
Yeah, I haven't even got a notification to say that we've gone stratospheric.
No, well, we are online, so that's good. Because otherwise, it's just us 3 talking rubbish for an hour and a half.
It is just us 3 talking rubbish.
Yeah. Hi, Damien Devison. Kenny says mine have been coming through about 20 minutes after we start. That's helpful.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, great.
So,
Yeah, we've usually got all the bollocks out the way by then, and we're actually talking about something.
Yeah.
Vaguely.
Before we get to the end of show bollocks. So,
yeah.
that little nugget of quality in the middle.
Yeah.
Quality bollocks is 20 minutes in.
Yeah. We do try to keep it to a schedule.
Right, let's jump into the news.
I take my gun and I go pew 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 pew.
News. So obviously in our top story
quick.
tonight, that was very quick. In our top story tonight, Andy has been rear-ended
By an old woman. In a Tesla.
by an old woman.
Yeah. Not a massive geezer in a huge 4x4. An old woman in a Tesla. How do you feel about this thing?
Well, yeah, it was in a dark road as well, dark country lane.
Oh.
Andy, show us on the door where they touch you.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, fresh meat. So there was a bit of news I wanted to share that somebody, I think it was Kenny actually, posted in our NoFo community chat. So if you're not aware, on Facebook we obviously have the main November Foxtrot page, and then we have a NoFo Airsoft community chat, which is the sort of more sociable living room for November Foxtrot, I would say.
Yeah, to kick back and talk.
Yeah, where you can sort of share stuff. As long as you don't start trying to sell T-shirts with our logos on, you're more than welcome. But Kenny Westy shared a link, which was Where Airsoft Begins, which is a YouTuber who appears to be sort of building a new airsoft platform. Now, we've obviously seen a lot of these in the past. Airsoft Nation, tried to sort of build this big community and this platform. I know that there's been 1 or 2 prior to that. Facebook is obviously probably the most successful for that, but I think arguably it's the most successful because it's just everywhere. Facebook is a
But then how long do they
massive
last? They
platform.
get shut down for something or other, don't they?
Yes. Well, yeah.
Which is gash.
But I think obviously part of the problem with Facebook is that it doesn't like riffs, which being airsoft is 90% riffs for the most part, and 10% just looking good for a photo, or trying to. Obviously that potentially presents a few options. So I believe it's Virage Airsoft, who I believe is a Belgian gamer. Airsofter, so they're looking to set that up. So it's an interesting thing to keep in mind and sort of keep an eye out for. We've obviously tried to set our calendar up on our website. That's still a bit of a work in progress. We're trying to build that in 2023, but it's not the easiest thing to do. So best of luck to him, basically. But if you keep your eye out,
Absolutely,
if
yeah,
you're
it's a cool little hub, isn't it, for everything, news, podcasts, everything, yeah, basically, which is good. We like.
Any news from the two of you?
Yes.
Oh yeah, go on, Andy.
Well, this is a bit of a cheeky one. I bought myself some new Step 1s. But on one set, I went for a very bright orange set. if anyone is a size small and is after a free pair of step ones, I have a pair in orange because I did not click the size that I require. And I went to put them on a couple of days ago and realized that, yeah, my testicles ain't going to fit in this. So if anyone is a size small and requires an orange pair of step one panties,
Orange,
let me know.
safety issue underpants.
Yes. They were bought
You
for
can
high
always
vis for on the.
You can always
on
put
the-
them on
the
your
job.
arms.
No, I can't even put them on my arms. It
your
barely
head.
fits on my head. Yeah, but I'm
them on
trying
your
to give
head,
them
dude.
away. I can't put them on my head. Could do
You
that.
know.
Step one bandana.
You know,
Upside
that's
But yeah, message me.
It's a
if
look.
you wanna-
It's not a good look,
Yeah,
but it's a
not-
look.
It's there.
confident.
The offer
You
is there
have
for
some
if
confidence
anyone
in that.
needs it. I'm giving them away absolutely free. So if you're a little skinny person or you know a little skinny person,
Oh, John's step ones have arrived, so he's no doubt he's sat there in his living room in them right now, drinking
Yes.
a coffee.
Lovely.
I
feeling
must
snug.
admit,
Feeling
it was a
secure.
little strange ordering pants for another man.
You've done it for me before.
yeah, and me. Those level ones were lovely. I mean,
Clearly, whilst I still do it, I still find it a bit weird.
My vulcanized
you're right,
rubber
I have-
ones are
I have-
marvelous.
Oh,
Vulcan.
James is going to PM you, Andy.
Lovely jubbly.
There you go.
I bet he's just going to say PM, say prove it. I want to see a video of you trying to get into them.
Yeah,
All right, take them off your hands.
that is on my OnlyFans
Just
account.
crying. Just...
It was
Like
definitely
a tied himself on the floor.
it was definitely a blow to the self-esteem when I tried to put them on. I was like, hang on a minute, I haven't put that much weight on since yesterday, have I?
I am a giant.
I do sometimes think we should get an audio descriptive version of this podcast, which is Andy slowly tries to put a pair of tiny pants on his head.
Well, yes.
Just some of the things that happen is like I always feel like quite bad for the people that listen audio only. It's just like how do you describe this?
No, it shouldn't be described. That's the thing.
Yeah.
No one would want to describe that.
I want to have the little lady in the right-hand corner signing it. Andrew put pants on his head.
Yeah. I don't know how would you do pants? That'd be sort of
Pants.
like pants.
I don't know what pants is.
I don't think it's just made up, Lance. I think they do generally follow like some sort of language curriculum. It's just like, how would they just sign pants? Just
There's the shape of pants, maybe. Surely there's some signs of shapes, aren't they? Of
Lance is
could be.
moving
No,
his hands weirdly in front of his chest.
I don't know. What did you the leather lederhosen to go with your searchlight? Could you imagine Mike with a huge searchlight just panning around the field, and then he happens upon Andy on the floor trying to pull small pants on, just on his side.
I told you what happens on events. We don't talk about it.
Andy found you again.
What happens in the dark stays in the dark.
Yeah.
Thank
James
the
C.
Lord.
Just change the subject. James C. says VFC are bringing out a Walther PPK, which I believe is a gas blowback. Dan said, and apparently an M240.
Oh, I might have to get a Bond background now.
Yes.
That'd be quite cool. Wouldn't it?
Oh, we allowed
Lance,
to?
can
And
Don't get the guns out, Lance, because you know
I was just about to
YouTube
say,
might shut us down.
we're not allowed to do things with guns, are we?
I have no idea.
Better pop the bag out.
Lance holds his hand up, pretending he's got a pistol, but it's his fingers.
My fleshy finger gun.
also, I have some other amazing news. Our lovely friend Kenny over at lovely Empire Airsoft
Yes.
has got hold of some GHK gas blowback AKs.
Oh, they are like
They are like
horse.
rocking horse shit. And he has messaged me, and I have one put aside. And there, I think he's got one left for if anyone wants one.
who
He's
else
after
was
one. I
after one of
said-
them?
I don't, Kenny.
Oh, that'd be it then. So he's got that one.
Oh, yeah. But I think he got a couple in, and he said he literally messaged me the day of the
Where did he
accident.
get them from?
I have no idea, but he's a legend.
I'm late tonight, evening gents. Oh well.
Well.
Your
All
tardiness has been noted,
Don't
Ray.
pick those
It's been noted,
scabs.
mate.
Don't pick those
Yeah.
scabs.
How's the
No.
knee?
But yeah, so just thought I, as an agreement for him putting mine aside, I said I would mention it. But I don't
Nice.
ask questions. I don't ask questions of how he got them. I just know that he's got my one, so I don't care.
Don't care about anybody else getting one. I have my one.
Yes.
Well, I am.
Which I can't
Rach-
use for months now because I can't.
You have to get a
As
bipod
Rach has
for
just
it.
joined the chat, I had a purchase this week, which is the little Trangia fuel bottle.
Little red one.
It's a little red one. I got it in red just because of computer games, and anything in red is flammable when you shoot it, and I thought that would be quite cool. But clearly not going to be shooting this. However,
Ironically, don't
think
mistake
we
that for a
should.
small fire extinguisher, will you?
no, God,
Oh,
no.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So
it's on more fire.
this is the Trangia fuel canister, which is 500 ml, and it's got a little press button at the top to allow the fuel out. So obviously tip it up to the direction you want, push the button,
Yeah.
and fuel comes out. I spent at least a day very confused as to how you close this thing, because I was like, well, surely if it's stuck in a backpack or something like that, it's just really easy to just push that down. I tried sort of turning that; it didn't really seem to turn. Turns out it was just a bit stiff. I had to watch at least 2 YouTube videos before I worked out you can twist that.
And
So
it
that
locks it off.
prevents it from leaking, because I was like, well, this is surely a massive fire hazard. If I've just got something that just puts in a bag and it just starts
I'm
dribbling.
genuinely concerned that looks like a small fire extinguisher, like the one
Yeah.
I've got in my truck.
It
I'm
does,
glad I've
doesn't
got a
it?
green one of them. I've got a green Trangia thing and a red fire extinguisher.
The trouble is, you're gonna take that out at an event, and everyone's gonna be like, "Jesus Christ, that's bright," and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, I better spray it green."
I'm going to genuinely swap his Trangia fuel for a fire extinguisher, though. So he goes, just gets his little brass mess dish out there.
One of the
am-
foam ones as well. So just...
I'll be brutally honest. I'm probably not going to be taking this on a MilSim. This is probably more for my sort of backpacking, wild camping stuff.
Personal use.
Just because with
we
the
can't talk about it then. No,
we can a
can't
little bit.
talk about it.
Kit and gear, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, it's probably more for that use. In my mind, personally, I'm probably going to stick with the current cook sets and bits and pieces that I've got. But I like the idea of the Trangia, and I like the idea of like a much slower cooking when you're out and you want to enjoy the wilderness a bit more. You know,
And it's
jet
quiet
boils and
as
things
well.
like that. Exactly. That's the
Quiet.
kind of
Clean
my go-to one.
burning. Just
Yeah.
be mindful it's not a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Well, either it's going to make things better or a lot worse.
You need to
So that's
get
a
a
very
black Sharpie pen and just put fire maker, and then on your fire, you put fire takeawayer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Couple other things I bought. These are sort of purchases that came in through the Black Friday sale. I got myself a little first aid dry sack.
Ooh, I like that.
So I was thinking,
Don't get that mixed
because-
up with your Trangia one though.
Yeah, all your fire
Everything's
extinguisher.
red. No, I was
That's
thinking,
gone
obviously.
very festive, ladies and gentlemen, hasn't he?
Ho, ho, ho. This is the first aid. I think this is
Who's got
the
a
small.
Christmas boo-boo?
This is the small first aid dry sack, basically, where I'm trying to ditch my Bergen liner. So the internal for my Bergen I find incredibly difficult to use. I can't ever get things in and out of it easily. It just collapses on itself. So I'm going more of the route of individually preparing items with their own dry sacks.
Yeah,
Two
that's
reasons
what
for
I
that. One, I can obviously bin off the big flappy one that goes all over the place. But secondly, if one thing leaks, it doesn't potentially implicate everything. So if that dry sack, the big sort of Bergen liner, was to leak for any reason, or something was to leak inside, obviously everything inside is then susceptible to that leak. The idea of wrapping everything individually, whilst it obviously adds a little bit of extra weight because of the additional wrapping that you're kind of doing for each individual item, it also just means I can grab individual things in and out. So this is the smallest one I make of this. I've got it in red, so it's obviously nice and visible.
Mike just sent you a link to a an image of a bag liner. You might take your fancy if you want to show that.
Is it
I
red?
don't want to show that.
I think you should.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Thought it'd go well with the rest of his kit.
That's his new Bergen, isn't it?
Yeah,
Hang on,
I'm not sure if
Jeez.
it'll be a waterproof cover for his Bergen or a bag.
There you go.
Yeah.
Santa's sack. Wonderful.
Thanks.
All piss
So,
taken aside, though, I do like that first aid bag.
Yeah, it is
Thank
pretty
you. I'll
good.
send you a link. It wasn't too expensive.
Oh, you didn't get me one?
Um,
Oh, charming.
No, I'd send you the link. But they do a slightly bigger one as well. So I actually got a bigger one for my St. John's first aid kit, which is probably yay big, about a foot long.
Oh, is that
for
like
the
a
car.
zip-up carry bag one?
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah,
a
I've got
green
the same
carry
one.
bag type thing. But again, I just thought, potentially if I need to take that out and it's raining for any reason, I want to use it. Just putting it in a little dry bag, in my mind, is just a good idea to kind of just protect the contents, really. And the last thing
colours as
I
well, the bag as
purchased, sort of following on.
Ironically,
Ironically.
same colour as the
The other-
murder bag.
The other thing I bought is I got a Carrymore thin streamline suspension harness for my belt setup. So
You'll
this
love it.
was, I think, about £8.
Fair
Which
play.
I
Nice.
was going to try and make myself, but I don't think I could buy the materials to make this for £8. So it's just basically a series of webbing straps. You've got the thin one, which sort of weaves in and out the molly. You've got the buckle, I think the ladder bars, or whatever they're called. It's got a cross brace at the back, which sort of helps. And then you've got the back suspender parts as well. So
The
yeah,
same buckle
I haven't
again,
had
yeah,
a
nice.
chance to fit that yet, but I'm quite looking forward to.
That's going to work
think
wonders, mate. That will. You'll love
Yeah,
that.
you'll love that. I absolutely love mine now. I wouldn't
I'll
be
make sure
able
you when
without
you
it.
put this, when you put it on, make sure you adjust it loaded as well.
Yeah.
So it sits where it sits when it's just loaded. So I've done that before when it's been then done it unloaded and loaded.
Wait,
it up,
everything
it's
sits up here.
Yeah.
like, oh, get my pistol out. Want to change your bag?
Yeah, when your belt becomes your chest rig.
That's it. Yeah. Just the headband.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Good stuff, man.
Rage says, not wanting to sound like people's mums, but you should always keep your first aid kit separate to everything else so you can get at it quick. So good purchase, Mike. That's exactly the thing. So I actually keep the first aid kit in a pouch on my loadout itself. It's one of the few things I actually always have on me. So again, because the pouches are out in the rain, I'm not very good at keeping myself dry, let alone my kit. I figured that just having a little dry sack is just going to protect the contents a little bit more.
Fair
And they're
play,
not
mate.
they're not very expensive. I'll tell you what, I will put the link for these on the community chat. For those that don't have access to Facebook for any reason, if you ping me a message on my Instagram at 9volt Airsoft, I can always send you the link on there as well.
Yeah, fair play.
Lovely.
So yeah, cool. Anything else? Any purchases from you guys?
No, not.
We have enough pants.
However,
For your pants.
I was I was doing them photographs and I was sorting through some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am going to sell my DCS.
Jesus Christ. Breaking news, people. Lance
'Cause,
changes his mind again.
I was, I know, but I think this is it now. This is the final. This is it. End off.
I'm getting
I'm going.
very
This is it.
stark remnants of Liz Truss's.
Full Michael
cabinet.
Jackson. This is it. No, seriously, because it was just everything else sort of like works cohesively together nicely, and it's all all versatile. Whereas I don't know, I've just gone off it a bit. I don't know. It just didn't work with all the rest of my kit I've got. There's not really any place for it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's just one of them. So yeah, it is for sale. It is for sale.
But you prefer running
I was running for
webbing,
webbing
don't
or
you?
my chest rig, yeah, or my webbing, yeah. Either of them two. It's just there's no room for my DCS now. So yeah, it is for sale. So yeah, just send me a message if anyone's interested for some pictures, whatever.
But in a week's time,
It's not gonna be.
decide to
Nope.
keep it.
No, I have made my mind up. 100% set in stone. You heard it here first. It's on the market.
Yeah, we are about to do an episode. We are about to jump into the details on loadouts and stuff. So we'll wait and see.
how convenient. How
it might change by the end of the episode.
No, it's not gonna change. It's not gonna change. I even look at it now. It just makes me angry.
Makes you angry. Fuck you, DCS.
Oh, I thought you like running naked. Absolutely do, Terry. But I can only hold 1 or 2 mags. Well, securely anyhow.
Surely 3.
3,
Yeah.
not including one in the gun.
2 pits and a crack. Job done.
No, I can't. You can't. I suppose you could do if you dual wield a couple of
Something like
pistols. Oh no, finger guns again. Quick, YouTube, turn us off.
Right. Should we get into the episode?
Yeah,
Thought we
let's.
were.
So, no, the actual detail of what we're talking about.
So,
So,
what was he doing?
Yeah.
Why am I here? What's
It's the
going on?
pre-show banter.
Who are you?
So this week we're obviously going to be talking about loadouts, bits, pieces. So let's start with BlueFor. Let's start with BlueFor. So in terms of the BlueFor loadouts, very briefly, we've obviously been covering this last week, the week before last, and also we're going to be talking after Christmas with Lance and Andy's BlueFor loadouts as well.
You are.
In terms of any sort of specialist, kit for BlueFor, what do you think? There's anything that it is more BlueFor than any other faction that you would take with you?
Yeah,
loadout wise, or
helmet.
Yeah, I was going to say the TAC helmet.
Helmet.
The ops helmet is going to be a big one for your sort of like go-to BlueFor loadout. Again, something else I don't wear. That might be for sale as well, funny enough. But yeah, I mean the standout one, isn't it? It's the whole TAC helmet. You know what I mean? It's your fast helmet, skid lid, whatever you want to call it, and the whole. It's only till recently that sort of like the Legion events allowed Opfor to start using TAC helmets at night time for PID and targets, and it got to the point where it's like Opfor have just got as many nod sets as what BlueFor have, so it's not really fair to ask them not to run lids.
Yeah.
For PIDing purposes, people just got to be savvy with it. So, but yeah, for me mainly, I'd say for a BlueFor, it's definitely it's the TAC helmet with your radio, your comms cans on the side of it. That's the big one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I would. Yeah.
No, fair enough. Okay, what about shelter setups then? Do you think that you would have a different shelter setup for BlueFor that you might have for other factions?
I think that depends on the location. I'd say for Opfor, a lot of events I go to, Opfor tend to get the whole. You're sort of stationed up in the village area, or you've got this sort of area. They tend to get like a compoundy sort of type thing to set up, so they sometimes don't require as much cover or like bashes and stuff like that as what the BlueFor, who unless you're at a specific event like a Legion or Sterling event, or Sterling events, mind you, if you're up the trees and stuff, you're out on the ground quite a lot. But I'd say BlueFor would tend to be more reliant on the whole tent basher setup, and then Opfor would be. In a few events I've been to, a lot of places have had like villages or full village where you can get a couple of guys bunked into a hut or several guys into a building or something like that. So yeah, that'd be the only sort of main difference for me. But again,
do you think BlueFor's more likely to use bashers and things?
I personally, I think that they'll use whatever they can get hold of. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like you'll get a mainly mix of civvy tents, civvy.
We're talking BlueFor. BlueFor.
Oh, BlueFor.
Yeah, we haven't got onto Opfor yet. BlueFor at the moment.
I thought you said, yeah.
I know you because you've messaged me about an Opfor loadout. I'm talking BlueFor.
Yeah, well, no, I still think that they'll get hold. They'll in the real world, they'll use whatever they can get hold of, can't they? If they haven't been issued anything.
And again, it all comes down to what sort of event they're doing, whether they're doing like a recce or a light roll, whether they've got to be in a place where they've got to move quickly, just be reliant on bashers, or in a little bivvy bag somewhere, just like nestled up in a little nest that they've sort of crawled into whilst they're on them, sort of like in an OP or something like that. So you're not going to want to be taking tents and bits and bobs like that. It's going to be very, very light kit, easily broken down, easily packed away, so you can sort of go bug out quickly if you need to.
But then again, if they've got like a full blown FOB scenario, and they've got like a proper hard point that most people will bring, I would say, tents and stuff, and make a defensive sleeping area, wouldn't they? So
if they've got buildings, even better. It's just a case of bringing a cot bed and just getting your head down on that, isn't it?
No, fair dues. Okay, rules. Let's talk about rules. So obviously BlueFor generally do seem to have a different sort of rule set. I know the the classic is the ROE, or rules of engagement. Most BlueFor events that I've been to, normally, you're not allowed to make the initial contact unless, heavily provoked in some way, i.e. you're being fired at, which is obviously not the initial contact, or, there's a significant risk of harm or injury to somebody, either you or someone that you're protecting. Any other rules or things that you can think of?
There seems to be a lot more camo rules so they've got to be, like, depending on the scenario, it's all got to be NATO or they try to keep most people in one sort of camo pattern.
I think multicam's normally it, just because most people have multicam, don't they?
It seems to be a lot more American stuff as well. Like everyone seems to go straight for the American kit. Like, yeah, fair enough. We use a similar multicam, but you also get them saying, "Oh yeah, we can use all the digicams and stuff that they're using," which I find a bit of a weird rule. Because sometimes it can get a little bit complicated when you're looking around and you see 4 or 5 different camos and you think, are they with us or?
Yeah, so yeah. There needs to be some, some sort of regimented uniform. Whether it's just like basically, I mean, a lot of places will say it's like your base layer, as long as your top and trousers are the same. Like whether it is, I mean, ideally, we tend to do that in our team. We tend to obviously, if we've got multicam bottoms, we've got multicam top, or depending on what the event, if we can do it, it'll be a US woodland top and multicam bottoms, or a woodland DPM top and multicam bottoms. So we'll all be, you'd know who that we were
uniform,
sort of thing, not just some sort of like Merc unit that's just like a combination of different camos and a bit of civvy thrown in. Do you know what I mean? Which is why I suppose PMC is such a blessing in disguise for if you want to just like rock a pair of combat like camo trousers with a t-shirt on top. It's all good. You know what I mean?
And a baseball cap.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Baseball cap and hoodie.
It must have rips in the front of that one there.
Yeah.
It's taken 6 years to make that rip.
What, running into walls?
I was like, yeah. I just scratched my head on the wall like that to the back.
Yeah.
Is it ripped yet? Is it ops enough? Does it look ops enough now?
Is it ops enough?
Fresh Meat said at Glad 5, I had Legion Mike, so the guy that runs Legion events, bowl up to me by the water tank because he thought I was a squaddy that had actually snuck in. Okay, so we've obviously covered loadouts, clothing, shelter setups, rifts. Rifts, actually, that's an interesting one. Do you think with the BlueFor there's a more of an impetus on the specific rifts that you use? I know some events are quite keen on sort of trying to maintain a sort of a certain type of riff before an event. You know, obviously Vietnam style events, people will really want to try and keep you to that era, whereas generically more BlueFor style events, I haven't really seen weapon restrictions quite so much.
No, and I think a lot of people who've chosen to be on BlueFor have already got like an M4 platform. Do you know what I mean? Or a Scar L, or you know what I mean? They've already got that sort of allied look through their riffs, what they've chosen to get. I mean, I think what would be difficult would be the newcomer to a MilSim who's been running an AK for like a year and a half doing skirmish Sundays. And that's all they've got is an AK, but they want to try a BlueFor because their mates that do it are all BlueFor. Do you know what I mean? Or they go for like a NATO team at a MilSim, and I don't think that should be sort of like, oh no, you can't because you've only got an AK. I mean, you know, as long as you whack a tack light on it and a scope, it's at the end of the day it's just a weapon. Regardless if you've got an AK and you're in a team of 8 guys and 7 of them have got M4s, you've got an AK, but you've got MTP kit on. I don't think that really makes much of a difference. We're not making a movie. Do you know what I mean?
Although we've all seen images of like British and American soldiers over in Afghanistan and things walking around with AKs. Yeah, fair enough. They may have been slightly special forces or special, but
we've seen images that, could they not be? Isn't there a European country in NATO that uses AKs as its primary assault weapon?
Yeah, Poland.
Would it be Poland? So could you be a Polish dude in a multicam bit of kit?
Only if you're wearing a Polish patch.
Plausible deniability, mate. Not wearing any patches. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a little bit precious to say you can't use that because it's a Soviet bloc weapon, or you know what I mean. Come on, it's black. You know what I mean, it's not like it's bright pink with fucking flowers all over it.
I guess in my mind, to be honest with you, if it was, I think the more tactical it looks, so the some of the AKs, which are obviously, you know, Picatinny railed up, and you've got the attachments, bits and pieces like that. You know, I think probably look better for a BlueFor than the Woodstock. Don't get me wrong, I love a Woodstock AK, but I think, you know, it would probably be less jarring, but it wouldn't stop me from enjoying that event. It would just be, in my mind, I'd just be looking at it going, "Oh, that's pretty." it wouldn't be like, "Oh, I can't." You've ruined the immersion of my event. I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's farthest from my mind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether someone's got an AK or whether they're using a PKM or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's as a support weapon. It's for a BlueFor role. I couldn't give a toss really.
Yeah. Interestingly, I saw
I just want to have a go with it. He can come with us. He can come with us. Absolutely, come with us. Yes.
I saw an interesting photo actually from I think it was during Afghanistan, where a couple potentially special forces were they had like massive machetes strapped to their back, because apparently in a country where people are carrying AKs as like a matter of course, an AK isn't really or a gun or anything like that. It's not really a symbol of aggression. So it's not really like a symbol of force or anything like that, because everyone's got one. Whereas the sword or the machete or like the short sword or anything like that is much more jarring for them, which I thought was an interesting point. And there was another one as well. So I think there was a comment on the photo where somebody had said when they were out serving, they ran a support gunner role, and because all the ammunition was all sort of in pouches and stuff like that, people didn't really see him as being any more imposing than anybody else, because ultimately he just has a gun. But it was only when he sort of started carrying the ammunition out of the box, like around his neck or anything like that, or a little bit more on display, that people actually sort of started to take a little bit more notice that it was an actual machine gun or squad automatic weapon or whatever you want to call it. Which I thought. But
then again, are you just making yourself a target at that point?
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, shoot Baracus with all his brass wrapped around his neck.
Yeah.
I understand that they've got to look intimidating at a level, right? It's not always hearts and minds, is it? But yeah, personally for me, I wouldn't want to walk around advertising that I've got the big gun and that I'm the one that you probably need to take out first before I just light you up.
I wouldn't want to take around the sword either, because like unless you're proficient with that, it's useless.
Yeah, it's a massive ball, like, isn't it? It's a bloody great sword and a scabbard hanging off your belt. Can't bend down without cat digging into the floor and smacking you in the face. And this is a ball. Like, don't want this. I want dual samurai ninja swords on my back. That's what I'd want.
All right, Michelangelo. Was it Michelangelo? Yeah. James C.
Leonardo.
Yeah,
Leonardo had the swords.
Leonardo.
Donatello had the staff. Raphael had the size. And Michelangelo had nunchucks, man.
Get it right.
Sorry. Your turtles.
Sorry. James C said they have modernised variants in quite a few countries. Finland, I think, still uses their copy. Poland uses a mishmash, from what I understand, but the VZ58 is AK-esque. So,
okay.
There you go.
Fair play.
Rage says, my experience of Afghan was if you really wanted to intimidate people, you called an Apache. That really makes the locals run. Yep, I can see that.
Yeah. Can you just hover over us for a moment, please, mate? Yeah, sure.
Was it an 8 or an A10 in it, tank buster? Was it a warthog?
That's fire.
Just goes. Brrr. Wow. There was a town there.
What tank?
I see no tank.
Okay, let's talk about lastly with the BlueFor loadout comms. Do you think the comms setup is any different?
Yes,
I do. I think an Opfor comms set is more
BlueFor. We're talking BlueFor still.
Yeah, I know that. If you let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
BlueFor.
Sorry, Mum.
A BlueFor comms set is more out there for the world to see, whereas an Opfor one was very discreet. Because obviously BlueFor, you've got aerials for days, and you got your big head cans. You got potentially got a fist mic, boom mics. So I mean, all that jazz going on. So yeah, I mean, I think a BlueFor comm setup is far more not over the top, but a lot more involved than what an Opfor one would be. If I was trying to be sneaky beaky, I certainly wouldn't be having all that. I'd literally have a little handheld for an Opfor, just like
I'd probably just have it away.
Because you're not going to be keeping. If you're out doing a little recce mission as an Opfor, you're going to be sort of discreet and not displaying it, walking around as acting like a civvy. Whereas BlueFor, you're going to be, especially as like a section, a team leader or something like that, you're going to be on comms with Zero all the time. You're going to be using your PRR with your unit, potentially comms with another section. So it's all very much out there for the world to see, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, that's always something that you look for with when you're BlueFor running around as well. You identify, another faction that's clearly not meant to have military kit. If they're running around with a Harris or something like that, you kind of go, well, it's exactly the same if they've got, they're running around with a riff going, oh yeah, I'm just hunting. What are you hunting? Like, you've got a Barrett 50 cal. What the heck are you hunting?
What are you hunting? Velociraptors.
Yeah. The mooses around here are massive.
I'm looking for owls. Well, why are you arms then? Like, what's going on?
Because they're vicious bastards.
Yeah, the owls around here are a gangster.
Yeah, Big G flying out the tree.
Oh, okay, right. So let's move on to Opfor then. So we've obviously sort of covered that as a bit of a counter to BlueFor. Opfor loadouts. So they generally tend to be a bit more varied because it does generally tend to be if you're playing a rebel or something like that. So let's go for a militarized Opfor for the moment because we'll cover civilian and gangsters, etc. as a kind of a different role. So if you're assuming that we're sort of a militarized Opfor, do you think that the loadouts are different? They're obviously going to be probably similar to BlueFor, but probably in just a different color scheme.
I'd say so. Yeah, you're looking at more your block colours, aren't you? Your tans, your OD greens, your blacks. Maybe a bit of black multicam in there. Anything that's sort of completely different to what the BlueFor team would be, basically, for a colour wise. I mean, predominantly a lot of the military Opfor units I've been up against in events, it's been like OD green or tan, that tan / dark brown patched in places sort of kit, all very Eastern European sort of stuff.
Yeah, the only one I've done is Russia, where we were up. Like this was before it all kicked off, where it was literally the organisers did have to say, look, if you've got an AK, we would prefer you to go over to the Russian side if that's all right, just so we can keep tabs on. And it was more looking at people's weapons than the actual camo. And but most people that run a Russian style weapon that did that had Russian gear anyway. But it was a lot more checking what sort of weapon people had and what sort of camos they were wearing more than, oh, hang on, they're just bimbling about. But there was a lot of instances where because both sides had the engagement rule, sometimes you'd literally walk straight up to each other and just walk past. Like you'd be proper twitchy, right? But because neither side kind of made active moves towards their weapons or anything, everyone just kind of walked past and was like, this is a bit sketchy. But it made it a fun event.
It's like that at Longmoors that there's like a militarized Opfor team there, but it's when it's at the start of the event when they're not out and playing.
Yeah.
And you just walk it and you do that first patrol into the town. You just got eyes on you and just think, oh God, here we go. It's either going to kick off or it's not, but you don't know what's going to happen. Think, for fuck's sake, cannon fodder. Here we come. La 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 la. Walking through the village.
I think that's that. I mean, we've talked about this briefly before, but that's always the thing I find a little bit like frustrating with MilSims is the fact that that's going to be the kind of storyline arc. It's going to end up that the people that you're patrolling against now at some point will have a gun and will be trying to shoot you.
But the thing is, it's like documentaries I've watched on Afghan. It's like especially like going back to the likes of oh Christ, what's his name, Ross Kemp, when he done the whole ones with the Marines and the Royal Anglians and all that sort of thing. They would actually go out from their fob specifically to stir the shit and get into a ruck. They'd have their interpreters with loudspeakers heckling the Taliban.
Yeah, that was
like, do you know what I mean? Like, having go home, you pussies, and all this, just in Pashtun or whatever the language they were speaking. And it's just like you actually, and it's like it's almost the same. Like when you go into like when the event first kicks off and you go through that village, like that first thing, like here we go, here we are, la 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 la. Who wants to shoot us? It's like, and it's always the same. It's like
sometimes it works
kick
well.
The event off, and then it all flows from there. Then, but you've got
performing
to do that
full patrol maneuvers while we've got people just walking between you. Like,
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I don't like it. I don't like this at all.
It's when you're out in the open. If like you're really out in the open, like your nearest wall's a good 2-minute run, and you think, hang on a minute, it's going to kick off in a second. I am going to get lit up because I'm right at the front.
Yeah, this is
Guy
going
with
to
the big gun. that goes
Andy,
at
where are
the
you
front,
going?
yeah.
I'm just shuffling over here where there's a little bit more cover.
It's when you get like, so you'll get like 3 or 4 guys that'll just be like mooching about, just had a little smoke or something like that, and they put it out, and then they just disappear around the corner. You think, I've got to go around there.
Yeah.
I'm literally got to go round there and get shot in the face, and I'm gonna do it. I'm actually gonna go round the corner now in about 30 seconds time.
Ow.
Oh!
Yeah. The guy with the big gun goes first. La la la.
Oh,
On the basis that the militarized Opfor is probably going to be very similar to the BlueFor, I think we'll probably skip the rest of those sort of bits and pieces because it's not going to be too different. It's going to generally tend to be the camouflage patterns and the riffs, which obviously we've talked about.
That's genuinely that is one one team or style that I would not be able to do because I've literally got no Opfor military kit, if you like. I don't know, I suppose I could blag. Oh, no, I don't even.
You could put something together though, couldn't you?
I doubt it. I don't know. Yeah. Like low carrying wise, it'd be like multicam. I mean, I've got a desert chest rig, but I'd struggle with the rest of the kit, like the waterproofs and the trousers and stuff like that. You know,
I'd struggle.
What do you do? Because I wouldn't want to do it and just be all half-assed and just do enough to sort of get by. I want to sort of look half decent. Do you know what I mean? For an event, or have some half decent kit for it. But yeah, that's one that I mean PMCing and all that sort of stuff. You know, some rebel-y sort of civ stuff. I can do that all day long. And obviously, like the normal NATO BlueFor stuff is all good. But yeah, I'd struggle with the military. Oh, something to look into next year.
Kieran says, I'd say full Adidas tracksuit and a bottle of vodka would be ideal for Opfor. So obviously,
I'd say, saying that, that's. Do you know what would be a cool Opfor loadout? Would be Matey from. Do you remember that film Behind Enemy Lines? Matey gets shot down in the US fighter plane, and he's got that. Is he a Chechnyan sniper?
It's Owen Wilson, isn't it?
Owen Wilson, yeah, and he's got that sniper, and it's literally Adidas. He's got jeans, Adidas tracksuit top on, a black backpack, and a wicked massive sniper rifle. And I think he's got a pistol as well, I think. And he's just cutting about the mountains in a pair of trainers. I was just like, yeah.
That, funnily enough, brings us on to this sort of civilian role. So obviously, civilians generally tend to be non-armed combatants on that effect. So, you know, ultimately they are there to cause... most of the time, but they're there to cause chaos and give atmosphere and the like. But you know, ultimately, you will find that a few of them sort of stray into rebel, I guess, kind of side of things. This is where we obviously start changing massively in terms of the loadout. So, as sort of a civilian loadout, Andy, do you want to kick us off with sort of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, civilian loadout would be for me. It'd just be relaxed, close, literally anything that I wouldn't mind just getting shitted up. But then again, it also depends on what scenario you're playing and the area. Like if you're more aimed towards the old Russian bloc areas, then yeah, you might go down the Adidas and certain types of clothing. If you're doing Afghan, you might wear the Afghan. I've forgotten what the robe's called. Anyway, the Afghan robe. Is that what it's called?
I'm sure it's called a dish dash.
Was that the hat?
No, dish
dash.
Anyway, it's the long, not dress. It's a long robe type thing. I'm sure it's called a dish dash.
And the hat and stuff. So for me, if I was to play a civvy role, I would look at what the scenario is and then work off of that, and like look at a few pictures of what's local for that area. Do you know what I mean? I'd do a little bit of research if I was to play that sort of role. But then if I'm doing like central New York and I wanted to be a civvy, I might throw on a suit. Do you know what I mean? It all depends.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it all will depend on how I feel. I've got Saudi.
I've not seen the central New York brought to the woods of apocalypse in the city, but just chuck the suit on and I'm right there.
Central Park, isn't it? Central Park. Now that'd be a good place.
I'd dress up as the old woman from Home Alone 2 if we were Just loads of
Oh,
fake
what,
pigeons stuck all over me.
Yes.
What's her name?
Oh, who's-
Thingy from Casualty. What's her name?
Yeah.
What's her name? The nurse.
I'm thinking Piers Morgan because I saw something earlier that Piers Morgan
Oh.
looks exactly like the woman from Home Alone 2.
He put his face onto her.
Yeah.
It was Piers Morgan. Yeah, I'd be her. I'd be the homeless pigeon lady from Home Alone 2. with loads of like plastic pigeons just stuck all over her.
But that's part of the joy of the civilian role, isn't it? I mean, ultimately,
It'd be hilarious,
you can
wouldn't
go. You can go as a local monk. You could be a nun
A
if you really
local
want.
Local monk.
Well, why not? Why not? No,
Who's
that's
that?
the point, though.
Oh, that's just
Yeah.
Jeff, the local monk. He's a lunatic. That's ignoring
Just
him.
walking around with your mead.
I think you find actually, if you're running around I mean, it wouldn't necessarily work for sort of Eastern conflicts, but if you're running around dressed as a monk with long robes, that's probably perfect for hiding light weapons and stuff like that. You just have a whole array hanging off of you, and just sort of,
Oh,
you know,
that's funny.
you're basically a walking resupply.
Just
What,
imagine
basically
on the
like
back,
that bloke off
the
of
back of your
Hot
robe just
Fuzz.
says local monk.
Yeah,
Local monk.
exactly like the guy off Hot Fuzz. You just float, just
Yeah.
pull the robes apart and just like
With his
weapons. The point being is that there's a lot more variety that you can go with in a kind of a civ pop. I mean, we've obviously played with Padraig.
There's one option. You could just turn up wearing your day-to-day clothes as well.
Well, we covered that.
You haven't,
Turn up.
you haven't necessarily got to dress as a monk to show that you're a
Monks.
civilian.
Monks all day long.
Monk, just an army of monks.
Yeah. Who are they? They are the civilians. They are all monks.
They've really committed to it as well. They've shaved the middle part of their head.
Yeah. Either monks or they've all come as monks. Well, 50% of monks, 50% dressed as the homeless old lady from Home Alone 2, covered in pigeons. That's immersion for you, girls and boys. That's immersion.
Yeah, Dan said the Friar Tuck loadout. Job done.
Yeah, that's right up
Absolutely.
there, well.
Hilarious. Can you imagine like just a load of smoke grenades going off and just like a line of monks just come walking
Oh
out?
man, genuinely, if we ever do a proper full-on Opfor role that we can be civilians, we gotta go as monks. Just
I'd
a few
run
of us
away.
just walking along the street with like a big cross or something like that. So just
No, Steve, we can't
chanting
have, we can't have
random.
religious effigies. That's
All right,
really
a big circle on a stick, just like
yeah. Or we could have like some like 4 right angles on a stick, Mike, couldn't we?
no,
No, all
no,
right. Okay.
right. Moving on.
Buddhism, though.
Moving on. You've ruined it now. Shelter setups for a civilian role. Do you think
Semi-detached 3-bed garage driveway.
Okay, so obviously we're looking more sort of camping bits and pieces like that. You know, if you're fortunate to play at Longmoor or any sort of site with built up environment, you're probably going to have the benefit of some sort of like hardcover, like a house or something like that potentially. But tents, I mean, you're probably looking at more civilian grade tents. Do we think?
I'd say so, yeah. Whether
Would you
could blag
expect that, or is
flag
that
a
just?
camper van on there or something?
Won't just turn up with your big Arctic lorry that's been made into a hotel.
Oh yeah.
Just put up.
Was it Tiny House Nation?
Yeah. No,
it's
yeah.
simple, isn't it? It's just, you know, I mean, if you're at Longmoor and you've got the village there, you're going to be in all the houses, aren't you? So you'll be laughing. Happy days. You know, even better if you're in the new ones, got heating and electric and stuff like that. But unless you're hardcore like Paul Howe and stuff and Mike Marden, you just sleep out in probably one of the worst ones. It's like right out on the edge of the zone. It's just freezing cold. Like
I think
a moor.
Rage was staying in those as well.
I think Rage was in there as well,
Yeah.
everyone. Absolutely bitterly freezing. But no, you snuggle up, you keep warm. No, find ways.
Yeah, Tom's
civvies
joined chat.
do.
Happy birthday, Tom, by the way, for the other day.
Oh yes, happy
He
birthday.
said hammock if possible. Don't really like ground dwelling unless I have to.
Man of my
ground
own
dwelling
heart.
sucks, but
Got to have a
yeah.
certain level of class.
Oh, actually, Nick's got a really good shout out. A blue B&Q tarp for homeless Civ Pop sleeping.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, done.
Oh my god, it wasn't very funny. I think it was staged myself, but I saw a video the other day. There was a guy who was apparently homeless in a cardboard box, and another guy walked across and he put a Costa coffee cup on top of his on top of the cardboard, and the bloke grabbed it. He went, "Oh man, it's empty." He said, "No, it's supposed to be a chimney pot." It was staged. It had to be staged. No one would do that because it's a red cup in it. You put it on the top. He said, "Oh no, I was making you a chimney," something like that. bastard. Terrible, really. There we go.
Tom
Yeah.
Rosa says if there's hard cover, a good camp bed is worth investing. Definitely invest in that. I mean, you can get sort of the cheaper ones, which are like the standard sort of 2 poles with the
the 4-wire W sort of thing. That
that sort of
they'll
thing.
do the job, they'll do the job.
Which aren't too bad. But if you want a little bit more comfort, then definitely have a look at sort of fishing cots and things like that. While they generally tend to be a bit bigger, the insulation is so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you've got a cot bed that's off the floor, obviously you get your insulation out, but chuck your berg and you have like your rifle slings and your bag underneath the bed as well, just to fill that void up, because again it dissipates that cold air underneath the bed. That's what I do on fishing.
Oh, Dan, I think Dan was probably there as well. Dan said at Longmoor we watched 13 hours and had bacon cobs.
Nice. Did you have cob corn as well, or was it corn on the cob like everybody else says?
Civ Pop. What about riffs? Do we think the Civ Pop would have
Finger
different
guns.
sorts of riffs? I would say Civ Pop are probably more likely to use their pistols.
I'd say Civ Pop would be more of the sniper rifle, for the hunting rifle sort of thing that you could sort of maybe get. There's more realism of getting hold of that, like a bolt action, a shotgun, a pistol, maybe, depending on what country you're in, I suppose. But I mean, if it's a US-based MilSim, they'd have better kit than the army.
Yeah,
So
miniguns and tanks.
you'd come out armed to the knife, ready to purge.
Yeah, just a sea whiz on the back of a Toyota. There you go.
American gunshot stuff, exactly. Yeah, it'd be like the scene from Commando where Arnie just busts through that front door with a pink Cadillac and just have at it with a shopping trolley.
Yeah, I think it'd be everything really, like small little SMGs, things like that, like Uzis.
I would probably say you miss the middle stuff. So I would probably say that you're looking at excluding traditional
folders.
like.
G'day, folders.
All right, folders.
Morning folders.
All right.
That's got to be a T-shirt or a patch. It's got to be a patch. Phil, do you give me permission to make a patch of morning folders?
Yeah, let us know. We'll put the Aussie flag on it as well. Job done.
Yeah.
I would say with like a civilian role, you're probably looking at excluding the assault rifle LMG side of things. So you've got the kind of the sniper rifles, the shotguns and pistols and SMGs. But anything in the kind of the middle range, I guess, would be the thing that you probably would see less of.
I think so. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Especially
okay,
cool. Right, moving on.
If it was UK based. If it was UK
yes,
based.
I agree.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Let's move along.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, if it was UK based and they wanted to keep an element of like immersion and realism to it, then I think you'd probably get a struggle other than like over shotguns or side by sides.
I've got a crossbow.
Perhaps a few .22s or something like that. It's going to be things like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not. We haven't got the flamboyance of weaponry that like the likes of the US or other countries have in out in Europe, where we can crack a few rounds of an AK off in the mountains and no one's going to say anything. Over here, Christ, everyone would be on you. So yeah, go on.
There would be a way of getting around that, which is if you were to incorporate in your role play, say for example, it was a local militia group based in the UK. We'll call it a UK based game. That had been supplied arms by somebody. If you just roll that in already, you've potentially got access to a crate of AKs or something like that. Which would open that up. It also gives BlueFor something to look for as well.
Well, that's it. Yeah, if you're looking at arms dealers and things like that are sort of like using a civvy area to hide their weapons caches or whatever you want to call it, then that's pretty a way you could shoehorn in irregular weapons to the region, sort of thing that you wouldn't otherwise see. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest, if it was the UK, it'd just be melee weapons, wouldn't it? The Civ Pop would be armed with knives and handles and pitchforks and things like that. Yeah. All very, very.
The local rebel group raided a police station and nicked a load of like what's the old
tasers.
What was the assault rifle that had like the carry handle on it? I can never remember.
G36.
G36. That's what I would say. Yeah. They just nabbed a load of those.
Oh, could you imagine flintlocks? Yes, like Lord Byron's dueling pistols. I've got a cannon as well. Just roll this massive cannon out. It fires 4 BBs at once. Civ Pop. Don't ever be Civ Pop. You can't, especially if it's a UK-based civ pop. Don't be them because you can't use nothing apart from harsh language and knives.
Yeah.
All right. What about the roles? Sorry, the rules. The rules on sort of role play.
No
of
rules.
There are no
civilian.
rules.
There are no rules.
They have no rules of engagement. They are civilian. They're not bound to code or anything like that, are they?
They do basically do whatever they want.
Yeah,
Throughout
it's the
the
same as
weekend.
any
They're so
rebel
relaxed.
group or anything like that. They have no rules of engagement. The only teams that would have rules of engagement would be a militarized team, which would be like your BlueFor or your militarized Opfor. Everyone else is, yeah. I may choose to do that. I might not.
Yeah.
I'll see how I feel when I get there.
But it's like the team lead.
If I want to be an arsehole, I will be.
The team leaders that for civ pop and like gangs and things like that. Every time I've spoken to them after an event, they were like, "That was a nightmare because no one actually did what we asked them to do." Like they just went out. They went, "Yeah, all right." Went out and just went and did just pissed around all weekend. I was like,
This
"That
is where
sounds
I'm
brilliant."
going. I'm going to go over there because it looks more fun.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, no, I'm not going to go I'm not going to go outside in the rain. I'm going to go and stand over there in the dry.
It's like, yeah, if you guys can just keep an eye on this doorway just for like sort of half hour or so, yeah, no worries, mate. And you hear this like, oh, gunfire.
Yeah.
And then you can just wander around completely unarmed, like, oh yeah, what's going on?
Yeah.
Can't shoot me, can't shoot me, I haven't got a weapon.
Oh, I've got my phone. I'm taking pictures of owls.
Yeah, I mean, you've got those. John Smith has just mentioned. How about bow arrows? You know the airsoft bows that you can get. That would be quite cool.
Yeah, that.
Who was
woman
I
had
saw
one.
using one of them the other day?
There was
Hey,
one.
go-
At,
yeah. I've just been out on a quick
NAE.
recce and I've come across Robin Hood and his merry men. Just like,
I'm sure it was one of the Andy. I'm sure it was one of your what's the ladies' airsoft team called? Is it ladies' airsoft team?
UK ladies.
I'm sure one of them had
I think one of them has got one.
an airsoft bow and arrow. I'm sure I bloody saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, 'cause I
yeah,
think
they
she
do
was-
exist. They
Yeah,
are
no,
about.
no, I'm not debating that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was just trying to think who I saw you. I'm sure it was one of the girls from that team thing that Andy was saying about. Was using one. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, they do look
Yeah.
cool. They're bloody expensive and they're hard to get hold of as well. Actually,
So what is it essentially then? Is it
I
just
might-
like a normal bow with like a ball on the end of it instead of a point?
I think it's no. I think it's just a tube. So it's like it's got your barrel in it, and it's got like a fixed piston. So you draw
Right.
it back to a certain point, and then you just let go, and it just pushes the air through
Well,
the
it
barrel.
still only fires a BB.
Yeah, still only fires a BB.
Oh, I was trying to fire an arrow.
They do that in LARPing.
That's an
don't they?
actual bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, they
Like
they
a
do it in
tag
LARPing,
arrow.
don't they? Where they put a thing
I
on
know
it.
what to do. I've got an
You're
idea.
gonna go full Rambo and just like
I'm gonna go
attach tag rounds.
Surely you can. Surely they allow you to fire tag rounds with a bow and arrow, like Rambo, like explosive tipped arrows.
Well, no, because then you've got a stick at the end of an explosive. So when the explosive goes off, you've basically made a
You've created shrapnel.
great shrapnel.
Yeah, they're fine. They'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
What's a bit of
I think-
fragmentation
I think
wounding
the
between
stick
friends?
on the end of it is
Yeah.
going to be the least of your worry, isn't it? Really? Surely they can
Well,
govern it as well.
fine.
You can only pull it back a certain distance to
Yeah,
fly.
there's a lot.
Nick said you could use a LARP bow and arrows, which I think have like a foam end on them. So
Yeah, so we could remove the foam end and put a tag round on it.
Dan just said an arrow with a big sucker on the end.
Oh yeah, brilliant! Just running around shooting foam domes. With... Oh,
So you could always use your 3-man slingshot as well.
oh, you haven't bought one, have you?
No, I had one for a while, but I found it.
Oh, for crying out bloody loud!
Coming to an event.
That's a civilian. There you go. That's the only place I would never let you use it as a civilian
Oh yeah, I would only use it as a civilian.
hooligan.
Yeah.
Hooligan.
Yeah, a little hooligan.
You're a hooligan.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
it'll be cheaper than buying a smoke
Right, it
tag
is
round or
science, Terry.
mortar
Thank you,
round.
mate. I know you wouldn't take the piss out of me like these two pricks. It is science. Tag round, bow and arrow.
Oh, that's fine. I've got no problem with firing it at you to test it out.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
No worries, Mum. Ray says it amuses me that we are calling something else LARP. MilSim is LARP. I get that, but in terms of,
But proper LARPing. We mean
I think
Ray,
the
yeah.
LARPing that we're referring to there is obviously like the medieval LARPing. as opposed to the MilSim LARPing.
Yeah, proper LARPing or MilSim
Yeah,
LARPing.
LARPing with like accurately graded like weaponry and outfits and stuff is not MilSim.
No, because they spend more money than we do.
Yeah, their outfits cost thousands.
Yeah.
The airsoft bow is called a Shrike, if anyone's interested.
Mike
There
Shrike.
we go.
And then Harry's just went, Google it.
Google it.
Oh,
Don't tell me
Harry
what to
hasn't
do.
built one.
Don't tell me what to do.
Harry hasn't built one.
Harry's probably still working on his ultimate sentry gun thing. That's, let's be honest, I would far rather have that than the airsoft bow.
I don't know. I reckon I've
You just leave it out there, like 10
Well, I'm a
meters away,
veteran
or
of,
probably
like,
a bit further. But
Lance and his merry men running around in our green tights with bow and arrow
And Friar Tuck.
and Friar Tuck. Yeah,
I'm Friar Tuck. Yes,
multiple
Called
Friar
it.
Tucks by all accounts. Yeah, me as Robin Hood, Mike's Friar Tuck, and then Andy can dress up as the homeless pigeon woman from Home Alone 2.
he's got to be Little John, surely.
You don't get demoted.
All right, you could be Little John, and we need to find a pigeon lady. Mike needs an army of monks as well. Oh dear.
Oh,
Silly.
if we ever do the Warrior Monks, if anyone ever played Age of Empires 2, which was the wooloo sound from that, that's all our monks will say. So join the monk airsoft group. I'll set it up after the show. Do you just finishing off the civilian stuff? I think we've probably already covered it a little bit, but obviously comms.
I think civilian's been the best one we've spoken about so far. It's the funnest. Loads of fun being civil.
It is definitely. I have to admit, I do enjoy the kind of the Opfor PMC kind of like troublemaker side where it's not quite so regimented sometimes. It does.
Yeah.
We need to do another one.
Yeah, it does. In my mind, probably make for a more
There's
entertaining
spaces
event.
available for January, chaps, on the Phoenix for Octo 8.
Yes, I need to chat to you after the show whether we can do that. Obviously, Andy potentially can't, but
He could come as a wounded civilian.
I could shoot left-handed. Just can't do anything with it right.
He could just come brandishing a rubber knife.
I'm glad you said
What
knife.
you're going to say then. Just the way you
So
went.
obviously,
that.
the civilian comms, we're going to be
Christmas.
talking probably handhelds.
Ooh.
Sort of like the walkie-talkies and stuff like that. So obviously, like Baofeng's bits and pieces like that work perfectly for that.
Or mobile
mobile
phone, because you're a civilian.
Yeah, mobile phone.
Yeah,
WhatsApp.
mobile phones. That's the other one.
I wouldn't it be
Yeah.
quite cool if they built a payphone, wouldn't it? Like a phone box that's just had a Baofeng in it. Hello?
Ring, ring,
Loads of
ring,
like-
ring.
Loads of pervy business cards on the wall and in there just for the crack, just for a laugh. Yeah. that'd be
Or
fun.
if we
It's
have our
interesting.
pigeon lady.
There is a phone
carrier
box at
pigeon.
Longmore in there.
Yeah, there is. Don't work.
Yeah,
Oh, we should put some.
that's
we should
not.
put some-
I actually
we should
really
put
like
some-
that idea.
We should put
because
some
you
podcast things in there.
Yeah, no, but I really like that idea because you can set that up as like an Overwatch thing. Then if you've got like
You could have a
You know,
guy
like
man
a-
in the other end of the radio, and you get civvies walk past and go, "This is phone box to Eagle's Nest." So surely you could have thought of a better code name for the phone
Well,
box other than.
I'll be
phone
brutally
box.
honest. I was thinking more like a couple little like old school mobile phones that you could just ring, but they have to stay in like the phone box like that.
Oh. I was going to think about putting a Baofeng inside a giant plastic cup with string on it.
Yeah.
Hello,
Oh,
But-
dear.
Just a cup
hello,
and string.
hello.
Just leave it like that.
Right. So the last faction sort of want to talk about is, and I'm going to lump these two together because I think they do kind of.
Oh, you are right.
The long and short of it is they're not too sort of dissimilar. Is the kind of the cartel gangsters and PMC, in that ultimately they are driven by the kind of the mercenary type
They're
role.
totally
You might-
different.
No, I don't think they are. If
Go on,
you think
Andy.
about
You
it.
tell him. You tell him, Andy.
Yeah,
I was
kit-
muted. but You
kit-wise-
tell him.
Kit-wise, they're different.
So the loadouts, for example, granted, you're probably talking for the PMCs, you're probably talking like a slightly more militarized role in terms of plate carriers and stuff like that, and the cartels not so much. But ultimately, they do still generally have like a gang-esque style approach. That was how I grouped it in my mind. I appreciate that the PMCs normally
Whatever's in
most
your
people-
mind should be sealed in concrete and dumped in the water.
Most
Put in a
people for
little
the
box.
PMC go tan trousers, black
We're gonna-
t-shirt, and a baseball cap.
We're going to put it in a little box with my mama's titties, and we're never going to speak about it again.
Yeah.
Oh, this is devolving quickly. So in terms of the loadouts and things like that, so for a PMC kind of like a militia kind of group, you know, what sort of thing are we thinking about there?
Basketball vests. Early 90s Manchester United football T-shirts.
Is this just what's in your mind, or?
Yep. It's like what do you mean? Like a rebel force type thing?
No,
Like
but just I mean, so
T-shirts and gang colours.
No, because when I think of gangsters, I think of Scarface and like Al Capone and
okay, all right. The gangster
Tommy guns
terminology.
going,
Okay, the use of the word gangster might have confused things slightly. I'm talking like a not
cello
a
cases with
militarized
machine guns in and stuff. Sorry.
fuck's sake, not a militarized unit or faction, something like that. So it's not like a NATO or a militarized Opfor. We're talking, you know, sort of an armed militia. Think.
Oh, what, like Rude Boys?
I
and
don't want to
Road
use these as an example, but you know, like the Proud.
Don't go there.
You know, the Proud Boys at the moment, like the militia group in America that are causing all sorts of problems. It's just, you know,
Like cartel,
ex-serving
like gangs and cartels.
Yeah.
and terrible people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what sort of
yeah,
loadouts?
gang-
Civvies, aren't they?
gang
The
colours.
civvies.
Yeah, civvies with
They
gang
might,
colours.
have a bandana on, like we did for the Defiant.
Yeah.
The old El Houcher and Del Golfo, the black bandanas and the red bandanas, as a distinguishing mark. Or you might have to get an actual tattoo, a gang tattoo. That's always a thing for the event. So yeah, you have to choose your sides carefully, depending on who's got a better tattoo, I suppose. If you want to be an our gang,
It's
you've got
real
to get
commitment.
a massive pair of balls
To the
tattooed to
team,
your
innit?
forehead. You're like, oh shit, wrong gang. Joined the wrong one. I wanted to get the python on my arm, but it's I've ended up with someone's scrotum on my forehead.
With attacked balls.
Yeah. What gang are you in? Really? You're asking me that? And I've got a pair of balls tattooed on my forehead. Really? Yeah. Completely thrown him, isn't it?
Yeah.
All he's got is a picture of his Lance's balls on his toad on his forehead now.
Cartels, they're civvies, aren't they? They're a civvy gang. It's loosey goosey, maybe a bandana, rocking an AK, sideways shooting pistols.
But they might.
It's just like Peaky Blinders.
Oh mate, I'd love to dress as Peaky Blinders.
So you then,
It's in
Their
Cold James.
suits are
Yeah.
awesome.
but you,
Jackson
I
and
think
Gold
with
chains.
that, you'd be more. If you were a gang, depending on what sort of scenarios, you might be better kitted out. Do you know what I mean? If you were like, I don't know, what they're like an enforcer for the gang or something, you might have like slightly better weaponry or something.
Yeah, you like your different grades, like your lieutenants and
yeah.
stuff, like your foot soldiers, because they have to have a pistol. Maybe your next one's up, and maybe you have like a very small, like low profile chest rig and an SMG, and then like your big guns will have like an AK or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I always
Maybe
think
distinguish through your ranks via the weapons they've got, sort of thing.
I always think of like Sicario, where you've got like just the sleeveless vests or whatever like that, and they've literally just got gang tats and a pistol. Like, you know, it doesn't need to be any more elaborate than that sometimes.
No, that's it.
But yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately, the PMC cartel kind of grouping.
I love PMC. PMC's wicked fun.
It's very dependent on the
hired gun.
scenario, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, for the Octo 8 series with the PMC, the Phoenix PMC, you know, that's a very kind of distinct. You know, you're there as an armed group of people, mercenaries, basically, just trying to make money.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cause chaos and just deal with that. If you're going as a cartel type thing, you're obviously going to be more specific to the color scheme of that cartel. And as you say, you might have like a different set of loadouts and clothing for that. So I guess that's probably the more generic, the more specific faction. Is and almost that's going to be very game dependent.
Yeah, I mean, the only distinguishing thing for PMC and a cartel would be the fact that a PMC guy would have an element of like a chest rig, holstered pistols and things like that, rather than it just tucked in his jeans or hidden in a jacket pocket. He is an actual sort of
it'd be
fighting force sort of type guy. Do you know what I mean? So he will have PMC's wicked, man. Love it. Just jeans, t-shirt, boots, hat, beard, sunnies, chest rig, whatever gun you've got handy.
It's a it's a nice.
It's probably. Do you know what? It's probably a
between
wicked.
civvy.
Yeah, it's probably a
and
wicked
military
loadout to do
force.
for a first event. For a first event, if you went PMC, you could just go your skirmish stuff, less the camo, and just wear your jeans and a t-shirt.
Well, potentially you could even just wear your camo trousers. Depends on what's acceptable to the event, but camo trousers and a block color t-shirt or something like that, and a baseball cap is pretty much job done.
Lieutenant. Yes, in Britain it is, but I was talking about gangs. They call them lieutenants, didn't they? UK gangs would be lieutenants.
Lance hasn't had dinner tonight, so he's a little bit ratty.
Yeah, don't.
Lance had 2 coffees in the last hour and 15 minutes and no food.
Lance, you're not you when you're hungry. Have some nuts.
Lance is on a
have some nuts.
Self-destruction.
have these nuts.
In terms of the rule set for sort of the cartel-y roles and bits and pieces like that, I mean, again, it's almost quite civilian in that nature in terms of you don't generally have the don't shoot unless you're shot at rules with the ROEs.
You say that, but we did a Defiant. That's why we had the whole bandana thing. So if we went out without the bandanas, you were a sort of like a softy civvy approach, but still, you obviously still were a cartel member. If you went out with your bandana on, that means you were sort of out for a scrap sort of thing, and your other members would indicate to your other team members and things like that, which was cool. And also, one of the great things from that Defiant event for me was the fact that we were sort of not berated or anything, but our weaponry and stuff was locked down at the start of the event, and the more product we sold and the more deals we made, the more weapons and upgrades we unlocked throughout the event.
Yeah, so I love that.
By midway through the Saturday afternoon, we'd unlocked full auto support weapons, we'd unlocked nods, we'd unlocked thermal and things like that by making all these deals and stuff, which was cool because essentially we started off with a pistol and one magazine, which didn't really matter much because there wasn't a great deal of scrapping going on at the start of the event. So it was sort of like, for a majority of the event, I didn't even take a weapon out of me. It weren't till sort of like it was like late in the Saturday afternoon, and when it sort of started getting a bit more leery. But by that time, we'd unlocked the good kit, which was cool. But it actually it gave you a reason to do it. You don't guess it's like some events you've been to. It's like, oh yeah, you've got to go and make this. It's like, well, what are we going to get out of it? Well, no, it's just part of the event. You've got to do it.
It's points. Or
point. Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had to, if we didn't do it, then you'd be like, well, you're going to be using a pistol with one magazine all weekend, and that's it. But thank God, got our head screwed on and got it done.
Definitely.
So it was cool. It was cool. Enjoyed that. Good on the Defiant, lads. Bosh! Hey!
Bosh! Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, I mean, that's all the categories I think we had sort of.
You've missed one.
Up. Oh, did we? What did we miss?
You've missed one.
Police and DEA.
Police. Okay, yeah, well, we can run through that quickly. I'm just conscious of the time. So obviously with the DEA and police,
It's all relative.
stop
Sorry.
talking in cryptic short phrases.
Yeah, all right, Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan, yeah. I like that one. I'm happy with that. It's better than Pigeon Lady.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not.
No, with
it's
the
not.
pigeon lady short phrases.
That is now your recce call sign now.
Pigeon
If you ever
Lady.
go out recce, you'll go, Pigeon Lady's gone dark.
Pigeon 1 to pigeon 2.
Yeah, that's it. That's
I'll lose radio contact with Andy. I'll just be trekking through the forest at night and hear this.
Yeah.
Andy, or is you genuinely a pigeon?
Yeah. It's when the pigeon answers back. That's when
So with trying to get us back on track with police and DEA, I mean, I personally would probably say they're not too dissimilar from the PMC type thing, really.
Apart from they're dressed as policemen.
I get that they're dressed as policemen, but ultimately, again, it's
But
it's
then,
not that
then again,
dissimilar, is it?
yeah, but the police would have.
They've got
different-
rules of engagement as well.
But they'd have
Yes.
different sleeping arrangement because there's not many policemen that I know that would want to go and sleep out camping on the job.
Not when they've got a police station and
No.
a house.
That's what I mean. They're in a house, but they'd have to be more billeted, I think.
As long as it weren't Padraig's band of merry men. The bastards.
Yeah.
I love
just-
them though, they're brilliant.
They just kill anyone. They do. Don't they? They have no morals.
It's just scoundrels, all of them. Scoundrels with loudspeakers.
And bread.
Tom says, played well, police are great in games, but if they're played badly, it's a bit pointless. I mean, we've been to an event where we were the DEA and there was a police element. The police element was comprised of a lot of very fresh people to MilSim. They struggled. They really struggled at that event, and I don't think it was really a fun event for them in terms of sort of how that came across.
I think we lost a few people, didn't we? Over the course of that, I think we ended up leaving.
I don't think you were at that event. I think we're talking about a different event. I was a fishing lady.
I need to get a better picture of that. Yes, thank you, Les.
Yeah, I mean, there was one particular event. It's not the Defiant one I'm talking about. There was
because that one lost a few people, didn't it?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about. It was one at Apocalypse a long time ago, where I think it was the first DEA one they ran, but we were like a 6 to 8 man DEA kind of operation. The police probably had similar numbers, but they would just absolutely ransack the entire weekend because the cartel just teamed up against them, even though there were two cartel factions. Well, the police just didn't really have a chance. It just, in my mind, I don't think that worked well. So I get Tom's point on that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just trying to catch up a bit of the chat because I've just seen Bennett from Commando would be the best look from Steve Walker, but Bennett from Commando's got to have the campest outfit of a bad guy ever. But it's hilarious.
Sure, it would be a good look, wouldn't it?
In a silver chainmail vest, leather trousers.
Oh God, I didn't know the reference, and that's awful.
Bennett, have you put Bennett from Commando in? Yeah. It's beautiful, beautiful.
It's an interesting look.
Yeah, it's a wrong. I reckon you can show it off.
Yeah. Who?
Either of you two. I'm not fussed to. Well, someone do it.
I'm not fussed to.
I don't give a fuck. One of you do it.
What are we doing?
Bennett from Commando.
I don't really interest. I'm sticking with my monk idea. There you go.
Oh yeah.
See, the trouble is, I can't grow a head of hair like that, so it'll have to be Mike.
Pointing his gun, you folder.
Yeah, I can't.
He is Aussie as well, isn't he? He's actually Aussie.
All right, we'll have
to... Nick says there's two very good police loadout teams, one in Bristol and the other's not sure where they're from. Yeah,
there was actually me and Kettles went to a Arabs weekend, Airsoft Ransom Bants at the Alpha site, and they had a wicked police team there. They were proper, like
some of them are really good.
The full kit, like the tasers, they had everything. It looked proper accurate. The vest was made from wool. His nan made it.
What was that?
Oh dear. Bennett, I'm gonna have to watch some comedy Commando outtakes now. Later on. There's some peaches that people have done voiceovers and out on it. Brilliant, man.
I mean, maybe we'll have to come back in more detail on the police loadouts because I hadn't even considered that one. To be fair,
yeah.
But,
no, well, see.
Sorry.
Well,
if there's any other loadouts,
that's why there's 3 brains. Yeah. 3 brains.
4 brains,
as one.
1, 2.
And nobody mentioned that in the chat before the episode, so that's great.
There's a chat.
There was a chat.
If anyone, if you've got any other thoughts on other loadouts or bits and pieces that we've obviously missed in tonight's episode, feel free to let us know, and we can sort of cover nights. We can obviously go into that. If you want to ping us a message with that, you can either leave a comment in the video below, or you can email us at nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is @November_Foxtrot_NoFo, and the website is novemberfoxtrot.co.uk. There's a few little comments that I've missed. There's 22 actually stacked up, so I'll just take it very, very quickly. Ray said, "Ruffle, how did it take you a day to work out that you screw it closed?" I just didn't. It didn't turn. Basically, it just didn't turn. Should have kept stum about the bottle. Give engineers a bad rep. No, it was fine. It was just it didn't turn.
Oh, of course, yeah. What with him being a qualified, degreed, up to the eyeballs engineer.
Yeah. James C. James C. I bought
water out of here.
James C. I bought a Dutch Army assault vest. Doesn't quite work for me too long. Gonna have it tailored to be shorter and add some proper webbing straps to attach it.
Nice.
Sounds cool.
hang on, go back to that one. Is that the Dutch Army vest? Yeah. Did you try and attach your web into the loops that hang from the bottom of it? Because that's what I did, and I found it too long. So I've gone upper level to the molly, and it's perfecto. So yeah, try that, mate. I'll send you. I'll get some pictures. James, I'll get some pictures of it, mate, before I go out the loft, and I'll show you what I've done. Because I did that first, and it just sat too low, and it was especially when you took a knee, it just like went it's like round your arse cheeks, and it just fucking So yeah, I've gone up a couple of inches with it, and it's perfect. So I'll send you some pictures, mate.
Rage and Terry were having a lovely chat about
as
Ranger
they always
Green and
do.
Tan. So Rage says you've been looking at Ranger Green Terry because you're a 5-year-old girl. Real men only have eyes for tan. Kenny chipped in with DPM for the win, which I don't disagree with.
Absolutely.
James said, I remember our team getting a load of AK-74Us for Opfor and Arrow event for the gang team, which is a bit of commitment going on there.
Yeah.
So presumably they would probably just stock out the box and then just pray for the best.
Just get up closer.
Just go get gangster. You're side
shooting anyway.
Les says, my issue is with all the events you book onto and you need a certain setup to go with the role. It's the cost element behind it. You can end up with so many setups that might be good for later at another event, but I draw the line with the overspending on things you'll only wear once.
Yeah, it's a fair point, mate.
That's fair enough, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good chance you'll only use it perhaps at one event or something. So it's it's a tough one.
Terry says, Mike, the green jackets and now rifles always carry swords.
Right, and good.
Ray said, you carry swords, Terry, because you were too thick to be taught how to use a rifle. Terry said, Lance, sell the DCS and you can buy some new kit then.
It's
There
true.
you go. Talking to various loadouts. James says Hawaiian shirts and chubby hats with an AK.
Absolutely, that's usually the standard go-to.
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah.
They must have a good run on like Hawaiian shirts whenever you
Yeah.
get like a cartel or something like that. It's just like, right, everyone's got to buy a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
What can I wear to a civilian event? Not any of the clothes that I own already. A Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah. The most non-civilian shirt you can buy.
Who doesn't own a Hawaiian shirt?
I've
do you
got a
have to
Hawaiian
that's the
shirt,
thing,
which I bought for a civvy event.
I got about 6 Hawaiian shirts, all dependent on the event.
Yeah, it's just an excuse to dress ridiculously, isn't it?
Yeah.
Socks and sandals, lovely.
Rage had a good comment. I think events need a dedicated civilian team. How many times have you seen CivPop go up to NATO and start screaming at them and pushing them around and not listening to commands and such? And I completely agree. You know,
100%.
We've said this before. You know, the whole shoot no shoot situation at an event is so much better when you've actually got a genuine dedicated civilian team. If you've got people there that are always unarmed, you know, and you're penalised as a team in some way. So, for example, Lance, with the event that you said where you gained assets, I guess, for your team, if you got penalised, so right, you can't use that now. It's been taken away from you for use or something. Something for a BlueFor event, for example, it might be that you have restricted access to a QRF vehicle. You know, I mean, that would be a massive game changer, which makes people more conscious about what they're doing. So you can't just go to an event and commit war crimes.
And I think the gate swings both ways with that. I think if you are in a civilian role, you need to conduct yourself accordingly whilst you're being a civilian. Like, so if there is a firefight going on, you're not just standing there with your mate lighting a cigarette, watching from 3 meters away the NATO shooting at the bad guys or the bad guys shooting at NATO. You should be running for cover, getting into a building, ducking out the way, getting yourself away from the firefight that's going on, not just sort of standing there going, oh, look, mate, because it's sort of like a bit, oh, go on, guys, fuck off, yeah. Especially when a firefight here, and it's sort of like a bit off-putting, and you're just sort of stood there, not in cover, about a foot away from me, just like looking at what we're doing and stuff like that. It's a bit weird, but yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah, a dedicated civilian team, that would be wicked because that would take away that problem, I think.
Nick said old era stuff like World War II, etc. And Tom also said the same thing. Having a World War II era bolt action is great for irregular forces, civ pop in many scenarios.
Yeah,
that Lee Enfield bolt action.
Ooh.
Yeah.
From
Yeah,
is
that
it the
is
Aries
lovely,
one?
isn't it? Aries, yeah.
Mate, I saw it in Crawley Surplus the other day, the surplus store. Jesus Christ, it looks nice.
It's lush.
Just to buy it, just hang it in the living room on the wall. Marvellous. I want to get hold of a brain gun actually, because my granddad was a brain gunner, and I've got his silver tankard from when he demobbed from the army. It's got all his regiment and that on it, and I'd like to get that.
That's cool.
That on a shelf with a brain gun next to it.
Yeah,
I'd love a proper airsoft Lewis gun.
That'd be cool.
Just the like the water cooled.
Which you could fill with like, I don't know, gin or something very British.
Yeah.
Tea.
Nick says, "Look at
Earl
Doomsday."
Grey.
Nick says, "Look at the Doomsday film. That would be interesting." So obviously you've
That's
got
quite a good film.
the
Actually.
cannibals in that,
Yeah.
and the reenactors or whatever that turned into the castle.
That was
Well,
definitely
that was
bizarre. Yeah.
Tom says, "Seems some great police role players at games. At one, they tried to give a Russian player a fixed penalty notice for littering." Which I love.
Cool?
All those little interactions are just wicked.
If the police at an event saying that, where they gave just saying it, sort of sprung to mind about if it was possible for them to have some sort of tracking device that if they did capture someone who'd done like one or two misdemeanors, be like, right, you've been tagged now, and this individual's got to keep a tag on them, and they can actually physically see where they're going,
Yeah,
what they're doing for an intel gathering purpose, sort of thing like that. Do you know what I mean? That would be quite cool. Not allowed to be removed for X amount of hours or whatever it is. You know, you've been caught twice. This is going to go on you.
You've been Asboed.
Essentially, yeah. So he's got to be very careful because I think it'd be you could have that done to you, and I think it'd be quite easy to forget that you've got that on after a certain amount of time. Do you know what I mean?
Especially if you've got like a counterinsurgency one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a DEA or something like that. Well, that would work really. I like that. That's a cool idea.
That'd be quite cool. Yeah.
I can't come out with you guys because I'm tagged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they could use it as like a decoy.
It works both ways. Exactly that.
Yeah.
Decoy. Where's he going now?
Yeah.
I spent most of the event on my own because I had a tag attached to me. Nobody wanted to hang out with me.
And that, girls and boys, is a life lesson. Don't get tagged because you'll lose your mates.
Yeah. Thought of the day, that isn't it?
Tune in next week for more thoughts of the day. Tip of the week.
Nick said a field telephone and line with BT engineers complete with the butties would be good.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Tom said that would involve wearing a sleeveless leather vest, and most of us don't have the physique to pull that off. So obviously talking about some of the more of the other more interesting.
I reckon we'd all be in the same boat though, so I think it would be fine. It'd be a case of looking at each other going, "Don't know what you're laughing at."
Why are we on the Magic Mike team? I don't like this.
Oh, brilliant.
Harry says, do you find MilSims are now set in more fictitious locations to avoid stereotyping the locals, e.g. South America, Eastern Europe, or the Middle East?
Well, Legion do that, didn't they? Well, they've got the barbarians against the 10th Legion. That's it, and that's the two sides for their stories, and that's how it remains. You know, which is quite good.
This is such a tricky question because I know that between the three of us, we've been debating this because you've obviously got the whole Ukraine and Russia conflict going on at the moment, which is shit. People are dying. It's not funny. But at the same time, I know that, you know, when it initially kicked off, people were like, no, we shouldn't be doing your Russian versus Ukraine games. But now there seems to be more of an acceptance for that. They seem to be coming in a little bit more, you know, people's thoughts, because it's not in the news. It's not quite so critical all the time. It's sort of, you know, dying away a little bit. You know, the same argument, well, why do we play World War II games? You know, Vietnam games. Why do we do the Afghan conflicts and the Taliban versus NATO? And it's a tricky one. And to be brutally honest, I don't know the answer. I mean, you guys.
I don't know.
We went through it loads.
I'm guessing it's tough at the minute because obviously I think, like you said, it's happened this year. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, you know, obviously like the Afghan conflicts and that. I mean, that kicked off in basically end of 2001, beginning of 2002. Covertly, and then sort of like full force into 2002. And that, you know, that was like a 20 years of their give or take. Do you know what I mean? 17 years, maybe 18 years. So over time, in a horrible way, it becomes the norm.
Yeah,
it's not like it's like a flash in the pan. You know, it's sort of like people grew up with it. You know what I mean? You know, any kids that were sort of like born in like the late 90s grew up with the Afghan war going on. Do you know what I mean? So it is unfortunately it's one of them where it becomes the norm and it almost becomes acceptable to do it. Which I don't think is a bad thing in a way, because obviously it's like I've always said about the armed forces and the army. It's one of my biggest regrets of my life never going into the army. It's a huge regret of mine. But I always hold serving personnel in the highest regard. Do you know what I mean? And growing up when I was a kid, like it was the likes of like the Chris Ryan stories and the Andy McNabb stories when they all came out, and it's like they're like heroes. Do you know what I mean? Like proper heroes. And all the other crazy stories that have followed since. And I suppose in a way you just sort of try and emulate that a little bit by doing these events that sort of echo a situation that's happened. That's sort of the way I sort of try and analyze it and sort of process it, I suppose, when it comes to like having a specific like a specific mission or it's named after an actual place with actual this has actually happened. And you think, oh, this is going to be awesome because it was such an exciting story to read or exciting film to watch. Do you know what I mean? So I think that there's that huge side of it. I don't think it's done disrespectfully or anything like that at all. Far from it. I think it's completely the other way around. I think it's just trying to create that theatre for it to work. Essentially, I think it can be quite hard if it's completely made up and you're against, the flip flops of bloody flaps. It's like, well, where's the history behind that? Where's the story? You can't just sort of grasp it straight away. Whereas you think, oh yeah, of course, I know a bit about.
You
that
need
already.
it to be relevant in some way. You've got to have some sort of like understanding roughly of it. Being
you can sort of place it. Whereas if it's like I found it as well, where it's like, I mean, I find the way Legion have done it really well because it's like the Barbarians against 10th Legion. It's like that could be anywhere. That's cool. It's a good storyline. And they're sort of pretty much the only place that sort of do that. Really, a lot of other places are actual places of conflict and actual sides against sides. And there's always backstory there. You can look up things and some 9 times if you're interested in doing MilSims and Airsoft and things like that, you've probably got a bit of a penchant for military history or things like that. Do you know what I mean? So there's a good chance you would have heard of this thing that you're going to be trying to take part in. So I think that's a big reason for why like organisers use relevant situations or past situations to sort of reenact, if you like. But it can be difficult, I suppose. But I think it's how you approach it. It's
I think also as well.
Watch a film. If you're going to the cinema to watch the film of it being played out in front of you, is it any different than buying a computer game and acting it out again?
Yeah, I think also as well. I think because it's current at the moment. Like people are happy to do stuff that they've learnt about in school. And the history side of it, because it's not something that they kind of get out onto the field and go, well, hang on a minute, I'm dressed up. I'm just going to use Russia and Ukraine as an example. I'm dressed up as a Russian soldier and I've just been mortared. Do you know what I mean? And you kind of sit there and you think, shit, like that's actually like properly happening right now. Whereas if on the history side of things, you kind of go, yeah, shit, that happened, but you're not doing something that is literally happening right now.
It's had time to be diluted.
And you've learned about it in school, like World War II and Vietnam and things like that. You know the history, you know the background to it all, and you've been brought up with it. So it's kind of like you said earlier, it's become the norm in Afghan. It's become the norm. It's become history, whereas Ukraine and Russia is a current.
Yeah, I mean there's been conflict there for many years, isn't there? On that eastern border, skirmish, like local skirmishes have been constantly happening from like 2014 onwards, or whatever, when Crimea was annexed.
Years,
it's been going on, but again, that becomes the norm, and it's not until this happens, it's kicked off this year, that people think, oh, Christ, they have been fighting for God knows how long out there, anyhow. But I don't know. Yeah, it is.
I guess the main thing, as long as you're having a conversation about it, because I think if you just blindly run into these things, you go, right, fuck it, it's just an airsoft event, I don't really care, it doesn't bother me in any way. And I think that's the thing. I think if you're having the conversation, you're thinking about it, I think that's going to make you more respectful to it anyway. And then whatever decision you make from that, whether you decide to go to that event or not, that's a perfectly acceptable decision because it's yours.
I think I think there'd be in a way an approach in a Ukraine-Russia event, I suppose, in the future would be on the basis of how it played out, like the big assault, and then the pushback sort of thing like that. I think if it started being sort of dissected it into the very small elements of what happened out there, things that we probably haven't heard about yet, and probably unlikely to hear about for a long time, I think that's when it can start becoming a bit disrespectful when you like things that have happened to civilians and things like that. You know, if it was just going to be like a force on force event where Russia have taken a load of land and now Ukraine's pushing them back, and there's objectives along the way that you've got to capture and hold for an X amount of time, then that would probably, for me, that would be a bit more.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I'll be more
Because
comfortable
I'm conscious of the time. Let's save this question because I think there's quite a good debate going on here. Let's push this into next week's episode, the Christmas episode. But we can have a bit of a Q&A. But we can have a bit of a Q&A on that point there because I'm conscious that we could probably talk all night on that subject. Tom has interestingly said, Gadge and I have put a 20-year limit on our loadouts now as a result of recent ongoing conflicts, which is quite interesting.
Oh, that's
fair enough, mate. Again,
Rage pointing out that Afghan was current while games were being played. Fresh Meat says, don't forget that with the Ukraine war at the start, was on the back foot for a while, whereas now they're pushing them back. So, there's an argument to be made there that, we're supporting the Ukraine by playing that out, I guess, in a way.
But that's also another thing, quickly. I guarantee all of us that are listening to this have been brought up with Russia are the bad guys, and they're always been the bad guys. You've got computer games, movies, TV shows where Russia is always the bad guy. And as soon as Russia invades a peaceful nation, everyone in the West is basically going to go, well, they're the bad guys. They're attacking a peaceful country. It's the same with the Taliban. Taliban, they obviously they attacked America. They've done loads of suicide bombings. Computer games, films, movies, everything has portrayed them as the bad guys. So naturally, as individuals, we would go, right, well, they've done something. They're the bad guy. They're the ones that are in the wrong. And I think that's a massive part of it as well.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, definitely.
And the games,
their own backs there. But then again, I see that's the only thing with the whole Russia thing. I know we're beating into time, but just quickly, it's like it's the dude on the ground. The genuine Russian GI, or whatever you want to call him, who's an actual soldier, who's literally been sent there. I mean, Christ, when they invaded Afghanistan, they were told they were going on a training exercise. It weren't until they were 3/4 of the way through the flight that they were parachuting into Afghan.
Same as Ukraine. They were all on training exercises
like,
there.
How can you treat people like that? You people who have signed up to defend their country, and you're lying to them and smoking mirrors with them to get them to fight. It's if you don't as well, you get shot, or your families will be in terrible danger and things like that. I do feel sorry for him in that respect. I mean, there's the other elements of it as well, like the Wagner Group and all that sort of stuff, which is just beyond evil. But there we go. Anyhow, yes, it's job for another day, innit?
Yeah. Yes, Rage. I did. Sorry, I would just want to cover that one. Yes, that was me. The Taliban never attacked the US. Obviously there's factions within Taliban. We all know this. There's like 30 of them now. That was just the sweeping comment. So that's me. Just sweep it, but as I said, tarnishing them all with the same brush.
More the political force of the entity, isn't it? As opposed to who they're fighting against.
I'm gonna last comment. Harry says, "Sorry for the tough debate question. Bit heavy for the end of the show. Let's park it till after Christmas."
Always count on you, mate.
Well, I have something before we go.
It's good. Go on, mate.
So before we go, it's been mentioned a couple of times that it's the 13th annual Airsoft awards, and we've never done this before, but we're going to try and have a crack at one of the things. So if you think that we're good enough to have your vote, but also vote for your best shop and things like that, it's a good way to actually show people that you appreciate what they're doing.
Stores, individuals, things like that. I think it's a great idea.
We've all voted. So if you feel like you want to vote for us, if you don't, then well, fuck you. But no, honestly, like there's loads of good creators out there as well. Yeah, there's loads of good YouTube and community people out there, and I'm not trying to take it away from them at all. But yeah, it's just something that's worth doing. I think all three of us have voted on there now for our favourites and things like that. So yeah, jump over there and make sure that you do get your vote, because after all, it is our community as well. So let people know what you think.
I mean, regardless of whether you decide to nominate us for anything, no pressure to do that. It's worth getting involved because obviously we've all got like favourite shops and bits and pieces and retailers and you know, Airsoft celebrities and stuff like that. Like male
the
and
videos
female,
that get published and posted and stuff.
I know Tom with AATV was sort of quite fortunate last year. I think he got shortlisted. Might be wrong.
Rightly so, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think just ultimately, you know, just share it with your friends as well because it's a good chance to kind of highlight good work in the community and things like that. So if anyone's interested, the link's at the bottom of the screen, which is down there. Down there. Cool. Yes. Down there.
Beautiful.
Nice one. And lastly, the very, very final comment. Marky Mark says, for fuck's sake, YouTube, thanks for the notification. Missed half the bloody stream. We are most likely always going to be online, YouTube and Facebook, live at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday.
8 o'clock.
We will let you know if we're not by the way means of social media.
Normally about 7:30 on a Wednesday.
But we will, if ever we miss it, if ever we miss an episode or anything like that, then you know definitely we will let you know. But if you always assume that we're on Wednesday at 8 p.m, that's always a good way to remember if you want to join us live.
Definitely.
So cool, right? Anything else from you, Chance?
Thursday morning. Oh, Billy, a massive folder. Don't confuse them.
Thanks, folder. Right. Anything else left from you, gents?
No, just ciao, Bella. Hasta luego. NoFo, stay NoFo. Call signs. Get in contact. Personal Instagrammers and things. I need some food and stop drinking coffee.
Right. We'll see you all next week, 8 o'clock.
See you later.
We might be a little bit early. We haven't discussed this. We've got our Christmas episode next week. We'll let you know. We'll put it in the socials.
Christmas. We'll let you know.
Put it in the socials.
Q&A. Get your questions in this week as well. Get some funny questions in.
Yeah, give us some questions. Just if you've got any ideas for content, anything you want us to discuss, anything like that,
Christmas
just let us know.
Yeah.
Anything you want us to do to each other.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll see you next week. See you later.